Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 86. We'll be discussing verses 6 and 7. So pasyat tatra mahatim kanyam vera manoharam Prityutfulakshanas bhavakshubham manodadhe. Translation. There he saw the wonderful maiden Subhadra, who was enchanting to heroes. His eyes opened wide with delight, and his mind became agitated and absorbed in thoughts of her. Speaking about Arjuna. Verse 7. Sapitam chakkame vikshya narinam hridayam gamam hasanti vridita pagi tandasya hridayekshana. Translation. Arjuna was very attractive to women, and as soon as Subhadra saw him, she wanted to have him as her husband. Smiling bashfully, with sidelong glances, she fixed her heart and eyes upon him. Purport. As soon as she saw him, Subhadra knew that Arjuna was no sannyasi, but rather destined to be her consort. Or rather her destined consort. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada elaborates, Arjuna, the grandfather of Maharaj Parikshit, was himself extraordinarily beautiful, and his bodily structure was very attractive to Subhadra. Subhadra also decided within her mind that she would accept only Arjuna as her husband. As a simple girl, she was smiling with great pleasure looking at Arjuna. Omagyantiviranasya Giranjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pogum Lankayate Girim Yat Kripatamam Bande Shri Guru Dinataranam.
It was that verse.
Yeah.
Very proper.
So, I'm just looking. Oh, there we are. Little stop share button. Now I know where it is. So, Parikshit Maharaj, he has asked Sukadev Goswami to talk about this subject of his grandmother and grandfather's marriage. How did Subhadra come to marry Arjuna? This is chapter 86. The Srimad Bhagavatam has 90, 10th canto has 90 chapters, the longest of all the cantos. So this is chapter 86. We're coming to the end of the 10th canto. But basically from the chapter 80, the narrative of Krishna's Leela concluded. There was an arc: Krishna's birth, his pastimes in Vrindavan, and then his pastimes in Mathura, and then Dwarka, beginning with his marriages to Rukmini, Satyabhama, and so on, the birth of his sons and their marriages, his grandsons, specifically Pradyumna and Aniruddha, are described in detail, their marriages, and the activities of Balaram. Balaram's marriage is also referenced, his visiting Vrindavan, his killing Vivida gorilla. So there is an arc that has been completed by chapter 80. Then we had Kurukshetra, the visit to Kurukshetra, That steps out of the narrative arc. Beginning from chapter 80, we have that Kurukshetra incident. Parikshit Maharaj asks about it, and Sukadev Goswami describes, and then our acharyas point out, this happened earlier. We're going back now. It could have been described, it's happened before the Kurukshetra war. So it's out of the chronology. And then we have that narrative concluded. And Parikshit Maharaj, our acharyas tell us, he's worried. Wow, the story's coming to an end. I want to hear more about Krishna. I want Sukadev Goswami to continue speaking. And so he asks this question. What about, you told me about Krishna's marriages to Rukmini and Satyabhama and others. Balaram's marriage was referenced. What about Subhadra's marriage? Because they are two brothers and a sister. There were more, 6 other brothers. They have been, they were killed by Kamsa, but they were just described. The 6 other brothers were just described, that pastime of Devaki asking Krishna to retrieve the sons that had been taken from her by Kamsa at death. So now all brothers, 9 brothers have been described. What about my grandma, Subhadra, who was a sister? Can you tell us something about her and her marriage to Arjuna? So this is kind of an addendum to the broader story. And the chapters that follow this, Sudama Brahmana, Rikasura, prayers of the personified Vedas, they're like appendix. They are additions that get added as Parikshit becomes more and more anxious that the description of Krishna's pastimes is coming to a conclusion. Now, as for Subhadra, well, I guess one thing we can say before we discuss Subhadra more directly, one thing we can learn from Parikshit is how to be eager to hear and to ask questions, to make inquiry. The sadhu, the devotees, they love to talk about Krishna. The devotees, they are enlivened when they describe Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's teachings, his activities. They love to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. They're looking for the opportunities. And so, but then they may not always feel that that opportunity is there. When somebody asks a question, the devotee is enlivened. So Sukadev Goswami is enlivened by Parikshit Maharaj's question, and we can learn from this, take advantage of the association of devotees by asking questions about Krishna, by asking questions about the practice of bhakti yoga, of spiritual life. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi. So one moment's association can awaken pure love for Krishna. But what is that association? What is the quality of that association? Yes, seeing the devotee is purifying, touching the devotee is purifying. We learn that in Shastra. But the best way to associate with devotees is by hearing. And so Parikshit Maharaj shows us how to take advantage of sadhu sangha by asking these questions. Here he's asking about Subhadra's marriage to Arjuna. Sometimes people identify Subhadra with Yasoda's daughter, who was bought from Vrindavan by Vasudev. That is not the case. So Subhadra is the daughter of Devaki. Both Subhadra and the daughter of Yasoda are associated with Yoga Maya, and hence they get conflated. But they are different appearances. So in the first canto, chapter 25, Krishna asks Vishnu Maya to come to earth to facilitate his pastimes. When the demigods approach Vishnu at the shore of the Milk Ocean, they ask him to appear on earth to destroy the demons that are taking over the earth. They're led by Bhumi, by Brahma and Bhumi. They supplicate the Lord to deal with an invasion of the earth by the demoniac beings who are appearing in the royal order. And so Krishna tells them, I will appear. And then he instructs Vishnu Maya to also appear. And he tells her that her role will be to transfer the seventh child of Devaki to the womb of Rohini in Vrindavan. Rohini was hiding in Vrindavan. Vasudev's wives, they were hiding in different places because of Kamsa's persecution. And so that was one of her roles, to arrange that transfer of Baladev. Another of her roles was to appear as the daughter of Yasoda and to bewilder her, so that when Krishna was born to Devaki, and then a switch was made between Yasoda's daughter and Devaki's son, that Yasoda would be bewildered. She would wake up and she would see Krishna lying beside her, and she would be confused. Did I give birth to a girl or a boy, or what just happened here? And she would just accept that this boy was the child that she gave birth to. So that's arranged by Yogamaya, who appears as Yasoda's daughter. And then when she's taken by Vasudev to the prison house and cries and awakens the guards, who then alert Kamsa to the arrival of the eighth child. Kamsa comes and sees Devaki holding the child. Devaki says, this is a girl. Don't kill her. She can be your daughter-in-law. So that's something that happens in some cultures. They would be cousins if Kamsa were to have a son. And then his sister, Devaki's daughter, they would be cousins. But in some particular specific arrangements, that is allowed. It happens also in Krishna's marriages. The marriages of Krishna's sons, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, they marry daughters of Rukmi and a granddaughter as well. So she says she could be your daughter-in-law. That's one of the ways that he tries to persuade him not to kill the girl, not to kill this baby. She says, you've killed so many of my other children. Let me have this daughter. He seizes her, we know, and dashes the child to the ground. But then she ascends to the sky in an 8-armed form, I think, maybe 10-armed form, as Durga. Durga means fortress. So she's their fortress, protecting Krishna as well, right? And now she's not appearing as Yogamaya, but as Mahamaya. And she chastises Kamsa. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says Kamsa, he is a personification of atheism, wanting to kill God. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says he is the personification of fear. So atheism, fear, we might bring those two together or analyze how they relate to one another. So she appears as Mahamaya, the great Maya that bewilders the living entities. A different role, Yoga Maya, facilitating Krishna's pastimes, facilitating union between the soul and God. Mahamaya, facilitating the living entities' forgetfulness of God, facilitating the living entities wanting to enjoy the material nature apart from God. And so after punishing Kamsa, shaking him up, there is a deity actually in Mathura, a very famous deity. I think it's Ambika in Mathura, that they say was the deity of Kamsa. Very famous, old, ancient deity from before Krishna's appearance, 5,000 years ago. People travel from all over India to visit that Devi temple in Mathura. People travel from South India as pilgrims to visit that temple of Devi, a very powerful Devi temple. And so when Kamsa saw Durga in the sky with 10 arms, he saw his deity as well. She's personified here and she's chastising me. He became very remorseful. And then she disappears. So she enters that deity, she enters the deity of Kamakya Devi in Assam and other places. There are famous deities. Krishna says, you will be worshipped in the world as Bhadrakali, as Durga, and other deities that are worshipped as the personification of the material nature. Subhadra is not her. Subhadra is the daughter of Devaki, Krishna's younger sister. We mentioned 8 children, 8 sons, 6 of them were killed by Kamsa, 7th Balaram, transferred to Rohini, the 8th being Krishna. And these children of Devaki, they're listed in different parts of the Bhagavatam. In the 9th canto, 24th chapter, there is a list of Devaki's children given by name, listing the names of the 6 sons, the name of Shankarshana, Krishna, and then the daughter Subhadra. Similarly, in the 1st chapter of the 10th canto, verse 56, it's also mentioned that each year after Kamsa killed the first son, Devaki gave birth to another child. And thus she bore 8 sons, one after another, and she bore a daughter as well, named Subhadra. So some lessons for you and I that we can reflect on. Mahamaya and Yogamaya in this material nature. When we choose to turn our face, Bahiramukha, from Krishna in Vyasadev's vision, he saw in the 1st canto of the Bhagavatam, when he was in meditation after Narada Muni's chastisement, and Narada Muni told him to write Bhagavatam. He had a meditation and he saw Krishna and he saw the material nature looking away. And she's looking away at the souls that are between Krishna and Maya that have a choice. They have a choice to see Krishna, Sumukha, or they have a choice to turn away from Krishna to see the shadow that is where Maya is placed. Bahirmukha, the Bahirmukha jivas, those who are turning away. Now, as Vaishnavas, or as aspiring Vaishnavas, or as souls that have been awakened by the grace of Guru and Vaishnavas, then we want to change our relationship with Maya. We want to change from the Mahamaya relationship where she's bewildering us to forget Krishna to enter a relationship with Yogamaya, where she facilitates our reconnecting with Krishna in yoga. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a very beautiful song where he prays in this way: Amar saman hina nahi e samsare, astira hayechi pari bhava paramare, kula devi yogamaya, bhogya bancha kore, abarana sambaribe kame vishwadhari. Brisar Sunechi Agame Vede Mahima Tomar Shri Krishna Vimukhe, those who have turned away from Krishna, Shri Krishna Vimukhe, Shri Krishna Vimukhe, Jar Bhagya Krame Hoy, Tare Mukte. No, that's not it. Shri Krishna Vimukhe Bandi Karo Samsara. Yeah, those who turn away, you cause them to be bound in samsara. Then he says, Shri Krishna Sumukhya Jar Bhagya Krame Hoy. But those who turn to see Krishna, you bring them good fortune. Tare Mukti Diakoro Ashoka Abhoy. For them, you give them liberation from material existence, and you assure them of fearlessness. So a very beautiful prayer where Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed actually for a change in the nature of his relationship with Maya on our behalf to teach us the importance of Maya's role in either facilitating our forgetfulness of God or our remembrance of God and entrance into his pastimes. In Vrindavan, the gopis, they perform Katyayani Vrata for 1 month. Katyayani Mahamaye Mahayogin Yarishwarim Nanda Gopasutam Devi Patime Kurute Namaha. For 1 month, they are praying to Katyayani that she can arrange for them to be united with Krishna. And so it is also a custom in Vrindavan that when people enter into Vrindavan or visit Vrindavan, they go to the temple of Katyayani Devi and they pray for entrance into the Dham and to be allowed to enter into Krishna's pastimes. So Subhadra, she is associated with that Yoga Maya in Puri. She is between Jagannath and Balaram. Jagannath is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Balaram is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in the mood of service, servitor Godhead. He becomes Guru, and he shows the way of service as a devotee. And then mediating that relationship between them is Yoga Maya, facilitating the relationship between God and the devotee, or God and service, mediated by, facilitated by Yoga Maya. And so that sister, Subhadra, between Jagannath and Baladev, it's a nice meditation for us as well. We have Rath Yatra coming shortly. So we see Jagannath, the Supreme Lord, Balaram, God in the mood of the devotee, and then Subhadra facilitating the relationship of Sangha, the Sangha between the devotees and the Lord. So Krishna, Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually mentions this. Krishna is the teacher, the guru, the teaching, and then the Sangha, the relationship between devotees, represented by Subhadra Devi. Here we have her falling in love with Arjuna. So a beautiful pastime. And it is described their mutual attraction. Arjuna is disguised as a sannyasi, but he sees her, he sees Subhadra, and he sees her beauty. His eyes are captivated, his heart blossoms with affection. And Subhadra sees him looking at her, and she's also attracted to him. And she knows, this isn't a sannyasi. This is somebody else. Now, Krishna wants Arjuna to marry Subhadra. Vasudeva and Devaki also want Subhadra to marry Arjuna. And Arjuna knows this. And so he's employed this disguise. Balaram's invited him into the house. It's interesting that Balaram doesn't see through the disguise. He's the Supreme Lord. He's duped. He's duped by Arjuna's disguise. Subhadra sees through it. Krishna knows what's going on. And so this is another example of Yoga Maya facilitating pastimes. Balaram has promised, he's made a proposal that Subhadra will marry Duryodhana. Manohar spoke to this already a couple of days ago. Or yesterday. Why would Balaram do that? Our acharyas say he's bringing spice to Krishna's pastimes. He's bringing some dynamic to Krishna's pastimes. Manohar also explains some other elements of their relationship, but the simple explanation given by our acharyas is that Balaram is spicing up, giving some spice to Krishna's pastimes. And so then we have, we have something to hear about, remember, and glorify, and to be purified by doing so. And so, yes, Balaram is duped. Subhadra knows, Krishna knows, they're happy. And then we see the eyes mentioned in these verses. So I just thought to reflect on that briefly. The eyes, the sidelong glances of Subhadra specifically are mentioned, as well as her smiles. These captivate Arjuna's heart. You'll see in the next verse what happens to Arjuna. So in Vedic poetry or Kavya Shastra, the eyebrows are sometimes compared to Kamadev's bow. A bow, so the two brows connected in the middle, and then the glance is compared to Kamadev or Cupid's arrows, particularly the sidelong glance. The glance is very potent. Krishna's glance impregnates the material nature, activates the material nature. And so this glance is very, very potent, yeah? He impregnates with a glance. And with a glance, Kamadev shoots arrows into the heart, pierces the heart, and bewilders the mind. The mind, manohara, the mind is taken away by these piercing glances or locking eyes across a room. Two people never met before, never seen one another before. They lock eyes across a room and they know there's a connection. And that's the beginning of a beautiful friendship. No, that's the beginning of their relationship. So the eyes are very significant in this. What is a lesson for us? Be careful with your eyes. Be careful how where you cast your eyes, where you cast your glances. They say the first look is okay because we're in the material world, so you're gonna see. The second look is where you've made a choice. You've said, what was that? That was interesting. And so that's where, can be the beginning of deep attachment and entanglement. Otherwise, for the devotees, we don't say keep your eyes closed, or we're not to imitate the example of Bilva Mangala Thakur and pluck your eyes out. Bilva Mangala Thakur recognizing how his eyes had distracted him even after he had recommitted to a practice of bhakti. He took an extreme measure of using the girl's hairpins to pluck out his eyes. That is not our recommended process. The Bhagavatam tells us to cast your eyes towards Krishna. See Krishna's deity form. Radha Mulidhara are so beautiful. The first time Sri Gandharvika saw a photo of Radha Mulidhara, she asked to have the photo. She didn't know who they were, where they were from, but they were so beautiful that she wanted to have the photo, to keep that photo. And then a long time later, some years later, she understood that they were Radha Muralidhara here in New York. And then now she's dressing the deities on the altar. So you see the power when we cast our eyes to Krishna, then they can lead us to his devotional service. Krishna is so beautiful, particularly manifest before us as Radha Mulinara. Otherwise, the gopis, they are cursing Brahma. Brahma, you don't know anything about loving Krishna. You have made eyes that blink. And for a fraction of a moment, we're unable to see Krishna. And so for us, we cast our eyes towards Krishna. And when we see the world, let us see it in relation to Krishna. So Krishna gives us many hints in the Bhagavad Gita, otherwise throughout the Bhagavatam as well. Sukadeva Goswami's giving us many hints how to see the world in relation to Krishna as well. And that's what, even as we cast our eyes over the world, our eyes they bring us back to Krishna. I had in my childhood a little experience of this when I would walk each morning in Govardhan up the hill. The temple's on top of a hill. And so I had a service of dressing Prabhupada each morning before during the japa period, before the greeting to the deities of the class. And as I was walk up the hill, the sun would be rising over the horizon and the whole sky would be painted pink and purple and violet and all these beautiful colors over green mountains. And I would think to myself, just, thanks to my Gurukul training, I would think, if this is a spark of Krishna's splendor, imagine how beautiful Krishna must be. Every morning I would see this beautiful sight and my heart would jump and I would remember Krishna at that stage, still young and innocent. And so that teaching that I had heard would flash into my mind. And so, yeah, our eyes should bring us to Krishna, and Yoga Maya will help us to engage in Krishna's service. We pray to her that she can engage us, she can reconnect us. Otherwise, our eyes will distract us and we will be under the jurisdiction of Mahamaya. We will conclude there. Any comments, questions, reflections? Prabhu?
Yeah, it's a question just around the topic of Subhadra and Yogamaya being different personalities. So somehow, of course, I had always thought that the child taken from Yashoda to Devaki was Yogamaya, and then comes to try to kill her, but she didn't die, and then she became Subhadra. But so somewhere in the mix, Devaki and Vasudeva managed to have a daughter also.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to be so clearly explained, I guess, in Krishna book exactly, because Krishna was born, he was exchanged, and then that seems to be the end. So I guess the question, part of it is, how and where did that happen? And the second thing is, you said that they were different, but then later you were saying that Subhadra is Yoga Maya in between Krishna and Balaram.
Right.
So then that seemed to be confusing again. So.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Thank you, Jani Tai Prabhu, asking for some clarification here. So, yes, Subhadra is Yoga Maya, but not the daughter of Subhadra, not the daughter of Yasoda. Okay, yeah, so the daughter of Yasoda, she's Vishnu Maya, she's appearing, she has that role to facilitate the transfer of Balaram, and then to bewilder Yasoda, that she doesn't like figure out what happened with Krishna's birth, and then to be carried to Kamsa, where she manifests before him as Mahamaya. That is Vishnu Maya, that's Yoga Maya in Vrindavan and Mahamaya in Mathura. And then Devaki, she has a daughter. After Krishna's appearance, Devaki has a daughter that's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. in different places. She has 8 sons and she has 1 daughter, and that daughter's name is Subhadra. Bhagavatam doesn't say that that daughter is Yoga Maya, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur and others, I think later in our tradition, they associate Subhadra standing between Jagannath and Balaram with Yoga Maya as well. Yeah. Thank you for asking for the clarification, because I said it, but probably not as clear as I should have. Yeah. You're right. There's no like narrative of when Devaki gave birth to Subhadra, how Kamsa allowed her to keep that daughter. That narrative isn't there. She's just mentioned in lists of her children, and then she appears later on here in this narrative, other places as well. So she's there in Kurukshetra, she's there in the first canto, like when Vidura, she's already married, but when Vidura comes to the house in Hastinapur, Gandhari and Draupadi and Kunti and Subhadra go to receive him. So she is mentioned in other places, but yeah, it's very clear that she is the daughter of Devaki, not the daughter of Yasoda. Yes. Younger sister. Younger sister. Yeah, she's Krishna's younger sister.
Krishna is born. Kamsa released Devaki and Vasudeva from the prison.
So that's then would be how that daughter comes. Sadhanath Prabhu is saying that after Krishna is born, then Vasudeva and Devaki, they're allowed to be released from the prison. And so then, yeah, that would be when Subhadra appears. But there's no narrative given, just lists. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, good morning. Can you hear us okay?
That's it.
Hello?
Yes, yes, yes.
We can
Yeah.
hear.
We're curious. You carefully described how the glance might entangle us, be misused, but also there's a possibility that in this case, Arjuna and Subhadra, there's this love at first sight glance.
Yeah.
So it seems like in addition to troublesome results from a glance, that maybe this is an example of, oh, this is cool. That there's something good about this, that it appears like an ordinary, like, somebody hitting on a girl and the girl, like, becoming infatuated, but these are not ordinary personalities.
Yeah.
So can you say something about how there might be instances where, like you say, in our life, there might be someone that we look at and then we feel a connection, and then there's some teaming up in devotional service that is not just an ordinary lustful relationship developing. Is that a clear question?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I like the further clarification of it, where you basically answered your question, which is very nice. Where the devotee glances upon a soul, or a soul glances upon a devotee and is purified. So the purifying glance of the devotee. And their prayers, Kada Karishyasi Hamam Kripa Katak Shabhajanam. They're the prayers, Lord Shiva, he prays. Uninda Vrindavandife Trilokashokaharani Prasana Vaktra Pankaje Nikunjabu Vishavani. So their prayers to Kada Karisyasi Hamam Kripa Katak Shabhajanam, where the devotees prayed for the merciful glance, in this case of Srimati Radharani. But otherwise, we pray for the glance of the devotee, of the pure devotee upon us. It is purified. We pray for Krishna's merciful glance upon us. And so to touch a devotee, to see a devotee, to be touched by, to be seen by a devotee is purified. Most purified is to hear from. So Lord Chaitanya, he's embracing people as he travels across India, and as he embraces them, they are purified. When he embraced Vasudev, who was a leper, he was purified of his leprosy. So the embrace of the devotee is purified, the glance of the devotee is purified, and then hearing from the devotee is purified. Among them, we're told to emphasize Vani over Vapu, service to the teaching over the form. Nonetheless, the form is purified, particularly the glance and the touch of the devotee. And I think we could all share stories of seeing Prabhupada or being seen by Prabhupada. I can't share those stories personally, but I'm sure you can, and many devotees do. Otherwise, seen and being seen by other Vaishnavas, and the purifying effect of that. When Indrajita Maharaj first saw Prabhupada, he went to the airport, he had a camera with him, and in that day, not many devotees had cameras. It was something special. And he brought it with him when he joined. And he thought, I'm going to take photos of Prabhupada. And when he held the camera up to his eye to take the photo, he was so stunned seeing Prabhupada that he forgot to press the button. There were, I'm sure others took photos, but he didn't take the photo. And that happened to Vishakha Devi as well, a photographer. When she saw Prabhupada dancing in Juhu, she was so mesmerized that she actually forgot to take the photo. And then later, when Prabhupada danced at the installation of Radha Gokulananda in Bhaktivedanta Mana, she had been chiding herself for months. You're supposed to be, this is your service, to take the photo. And you didn't. So when she saw Prabhupada dancing, and she took those photos, beautiful photos of Prabhupada dancing in Bhaktivedanta Mana. So yes, seeing the devotee, being seen by, and then in relationships, even like the romantic relationship, when it is among devotees, it is more, it's definitely can be purified and elevating as well, something to be celebrated. Venu Madhuri, we're going to greet the deities now. So sorry we didn't get to discuss your question. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Darshan time, dear devotees. Please turn on your cameras so you can be seen by Radha Muralidhar. Hare Krishna.
Govinda, Hare Krishna, Emotional service. Bow down to the great awe and reverence. As graceful and across the ocean of material suffering. And obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, and I am ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the born of the last of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Jai.
Jai. Thank you, dear devotees, for sticking around for the afterglow, which may be brief again as we have limited qualified devotees to answer questions at the moment. Meena Madhuri, you had a question at the end of the class there. Did you want to speak on it, or do you want to save it?
Hey Krishna, Jeffrey Prabhu, so nice to see you. I think I'll save it because it really was a question for Sri Prahlad Prabhu.
Fair, very fair.
Yeah, and it was a question about the structure of the Bhagavatam, on which he is particularly expert. And we're in this space that's kind of like a Maha flashback, right? That this is all like suddenly the Bhagavatam just kicks into reverse, and now we're looking at all these events again that have already happened. And I wanted to understand from him, what interpretation there is from the acharyas as to why that is, and not kind of like in a mundane English English class kind of question, but more is there a deeper spiritual meaning here that we're supposed to read from the sort of retelling of these stories? Like, is there a different lens? Or so next time.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate the thought and the question, and we'll bring it up next time he's around. But for this morning, I think we'll end the yagya. And please give us Hare Krishna, and we will go about our Sunday.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And thank you, dear devotees. Have a great day, and see you in the morning tomorrow.